Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Inside the Birds will be live in New Orleans on Radio Row, table 95. Sports Bash will be talking with the guys live in New Orleans. But before we get there, Adam Caplan is here for another edition of Football at 4 on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, what's up, buddy?
Hey, good to talk to you. So, by the way, if you adjusted to the time difference from Thailand to New Jersey?
Yes.
How long did it take?
Well, I got home I had a 20-hour flight yesterday. I got off the plane. I drove home. I fell asleep for a couple of hours. I woke up. I went to work. I did the show. I went home, and I crashed as hard as I ever crashed in my life. And I woke up today at 4. I've been up since 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, man.
So I'm kind of there, though. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, I got to tell you.
Well, how was the trip?
It was unbelievable. I would highly recommend. If you haven't been, I would do it.
Yeah, I've seen some of your pictures on your Facebook page, man. Yeah. So how long were you there? 2 weeks?
15 days. Yeah, 18 with the travel.
Wow, man. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad to have you back, Mike. So
yeah. By the way, so you will be in New Orleans, correct? I saw Inside the Birds table 95.
Yeah, I work for Sports Grid, so I'll be working for Sports Grid. I'll bounce back when I can to see you and Jeff, because I know you guys will be broadcasting together, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Mike. This will be my 23rd Super Bowl. Yeah, wow. Yeah, this is fascinating, Mike. To start the season, I just didn't. We knew the Eagles would be good, right? I gave them the upside win total of 14. I didn't think they would hit it. You know, I didn't think they, by the way, would win 16 out of 17 games. And quite frankly, Mike, I know you made your trip, your plans a year ago. I don't think you were thinking that they'd go this far.
No, you're right about that. The reason I was in Thailand the week that I was because the Eagles finished 1-6 down the stretch last year.
So bad last year.
We've talked a lot about it all year, though. They've turned it around, and the reasons why they turned it around, there's a lot of factors here. But one of the reasons why they won the Super Bowl in 2017 was because of Brandon Graham's play. So let's talk about him and his situation. What do we know about Brandon Graham and where he is and, you know, the potential that he could play and the impact he could have if he does play?
So, Mike, what's fascinating is he told reporters he was done for the season. Our Andrew Checo was there at the game. After the game against the Rams on the 23rd of November, he confirmed after the game, and it was certainly surprising that he was told that he tore his triceps. And it's his left triceps, and he had the repair. The tendon was repaired, and this, I checked into it, the injury timeline for a full rehab, okay, unless you're trying to shorten up like BG's doing, is 4 to 5 months. What he's trying to do, Mike, and by the way, the surgery was on December 3rd, so we're not even at the 2-month mark, Mike. But what BG's made pretty clear is, because it's not a knee injury or anything like that, he's going to be able to run. Now, I don't know what his lifting situation is. I don't know how strong it's his left triceps, which the triceps, for people who don't know, it's your outer arm from the back of your elbow to just below your shoulder, the top of your shoulder there. So it's a major injury. Again, this is an injury that will not fully heal for months. But because of the research that he's done on it, and this is what we're calling the test week. He's going to find out this week. They practiced twice. They have one tomorrow. He's going to find out what he can and can't do in a practice setting. It's one thing in a rehab session to know what you feel you can do, but until you rip, you punch, you move, and you do all the things it takes to play edge rush. And by the way, Mike, you know one of the things that he's really special at is a nickel a lot. He'll go inside despite his size. He's also a great run defender, Mike. That's what they say he plays that short edge. He really sets it very well. That's the thing. We just don't know what he's capable of doing, and I'll tell you, it's trending really well. I'm stunned. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago in local radio he didn't rule out potentially playing the Super Bowl, but until you just see him try to do this, he's trying to do something that's never been done before, to come back even before 3 months, which isn't even with a partial tear. A partial tear, you can come back in 6 to 8 weeks. I just don't know how he's going to be able to pull this off and be effective. And by the way, if this happens, Mike, next week, they'll have till Saturday, the day before the Super Bowl at 4 p.m. Eastern, to make a roster move to accommodate him on the roster.
All right, so his role before the injury and how that has been filled, since he's been gone, that's another, because we thought when he got hurt, there was going to be a big drop-off. There was some concern. I hate to say, we haven't really even thought about Brandon Graham because they haven't really, or have they? I don't know. Maybe you think differently than me. I think they have done a nice job without him.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the situation. So, Nolan Smith, Mike, did not have a good training camp or preseason. He was actually their fourth edge rusher. And then they didn't plan on playing SBLIX Hunt this season. So Bryce Huff suffers that dislocated wrist. He has a torn ligament in his wrist. He had surgery. BG gets hurt. Now, you should know before BG got hurt, Nolan Smith was sharing time. About 2 weeks before BG got hurt, he started sharing time with him. And then Nolan Smith wound up taking the job, and I know that's what you're referring to, and they've really never looked back. This is an amazing story, Nolan Smith, and now Nolan Smith is getting better as an edge setter against the run. He's not as good as BG, and also, Mike, you should know that game that BG had against the Rams where he had 2 sacks, probably one of the best games he's had in recent seasons, though he played very well in limited playing time last season. I would argue he was playing better this season, and it was just so sad when he, in Week 12 at the Rams on November 23rd, that Sunday, that he announced that he was done for the season. Then, he's trying to defy the odds significantly by contributing that. And again, we don't know if he's able to play what he could possibly do. We just don't know that yet because he's, as he said after Wednesday's practice, he's trying to figure that out. That's what this test week is about, trying to figure out what he can and can't do. And then, of course, from Jeremiah Washburn, the edge rusher coach, and Vic Fangio, is they would have to figure out, okay, what kind of, how many snaps can he handle? Because they also have to test what his endurance is.
Right, and obviously you take a look at his potential role for the Super Bowl. I guess that would all see what his endurance is and how much he can handle. Yep. Does he go right back into the role that he had, or did he just say, hey, you out there for, I don't know, how many snaps did Huff get last game?
None, but he's not. They only play 3 anyway. Now, there was early in the season they were playing 4 edge rushers. Smith was the 4th, not playing a lot, and BG was the 3rd. And Huff was starting, and then, of course, they benched him. So, well after, when he came back, he was his role was reduced before he got hurt. He'll dress. Well, actually, let me back up here. If BG's ready, I don't know that he even dresses, because SBLIX Hunt is he's absolutely earned a role here. He's getting better each week, Mike. SBLIX Hunt is so far ahead of schedule. I know part of it's because they threw him in there. He had to play. But he's another story of many this season for the Eagles. And then, of course, the last thing before we move on here, Mike, is BG, he's kind of backed off in the last 3 or 4 weeks about retiring. He announced his retirement in the offseason. Before he even thought he could potentially come back, he just wanted people to pump the brakes and just see how the rehab would go and see how he felt. Now, I would argue if they win the Super Bowl that you would think it would be a lock that he would retire. Or you look at it this way, though, to come back, let's say they lose by a field goal and it's a great game. Well, you can also call it unfinished business maybe once they come back. So we'll see what happens, Mike. But the fact that we're talking about him potentially playing and it's getting more realistic by the day is just absolutely stunning. It's a tribute to him and also their strength and conditioning staff and their medical staff.
All right, on the flip side, give us an update on the health of the Chiefs.
Yeah, they're going to have all 53 players on their active roster will be available for the game. Now, they've had a couple things happen which are interesting. So, Isaiah Pacheco, he broke his ankle early this season. He's their starter. He was their starter. He still is. But in recent weeks, because Pacheco's not been effective, they've turned the page to veteran running back Kareem Hunt, who was a third-round pick out of Toledo in 2017 for the Chiefs. He looked really good last week against the Bills. Now, he's not explosive. He's a start-and-stop vision runner. He also could pass protect. He could catch it. Just something to watch, Mike, in the Super Bowl game against the Eagles. You're not really worried about the running game. Pacheco does not look like the back that he was for his first 2 seasons out of Rutgers, who's been a great story, by the way. Just doesn't look the same. So that's a storyline to watch next week, how they platoon those guys. Pacheco's almost like a ceremonial starter. And then they go to Hunt to be their main ball carrier. So that's something that you're going to notice. And we'll touch on next week, Mike, when we sit down there in New Orleans, about how both rosters have changed. Now, the Eagles have had many more changes on their roster, particularly their starters. Like the Chiefs still have 7 or 8 starters on their defense,
right,
where the Eagles, as you know, have made wholesale changes, some due to injury, but most just because of contracts. Some guys weren't going to be re-signed, and role changes and so forth. So there's a lot of intrigue with this game. Oh, by the way, the point spread is still 1.5, but the over-under total dropped from 49.5 to 49 earlier today.
Could that be because they think Kellen Moore is distracted?
Yeah, I don't buy that, because I'll give you a little bit of inside football. So the way these things go is every head coaching candidate has what's called a book. It's called Andy Reid had the famous binder.
Mm-hmm.
So they all have it planned out, and they add pages to it over a series of weeks and months. So, no, he had his in-person interview earlier this week, because you're allowed to during the bye week, and then they'll talk to him after the playoffs. He's going to get the job, and inside the Birds, barring something unforeseen, we're expecting Doug Nussmeier, unless the Eagles block him, highly probable, not a lot, but highly probable that he'll be the offensive coordinator for Kellen Moore, which, by the way, one way or the other, this is crazy, Mike. In Jalen Hurts' career that started in 2020, he will have next year his 6th offensive coordinator or play caller.
Right.
Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and whoever's going to call the 25 offense. I get what Jalen said to start the season. He was absolutely right. That's really hard to come over, to get over. It's not easy. Alex Smith went through this. Remember Jason Campbell, the former Redskin? They were called the Redskins then, first-round pick out of Auburn. He went through too many of them. It's really hard. I'm fascinated. Most likely they'll go outside the team to find that next play caller. Not a lock, but our early word is that it's more likely than not that they'll go outside. And remember, they tried to hire Cliff Kingsbury. He was going to be the offensive coordinator. They could not agree on staffing, as we reported back at the time. And Cliff, by the way, did a great job this season for the Commandos. But yeah, that's the unfortunate part about this.
Yeah. Now, do you think there is one reporting that says he's not thrilled with the Saints quarterback room? Is there any thought that he would say, you know what, I think just staying in Philly raises my level one more year, like Ben Johnson did last year?
I can't. Here's why. I've talked to people close to him. He's wanted to be a head coach.
Yeah.
Talking to a source close to him, it's very clear he wants to be head coach. I'll leave it at that, Mike.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get that.
Yeah, we've used this phrase for 8 years now on Inside the Birds. It's never say never. We seem to use it a lot.
Sure.
More than we'd like to. Look, I know a GM candidate who probably was going to be a GM this year, and he decided to take his name out of one of the running because he just didn't like some certain things with the team. So you never know. But
and it's not even because you think Kellen did this great job. It's more you just talked about. It's the continuity that you got to find another guy to call, and that's a whole another new offense. And that doesn't mean that offense wouldn't be better, but it's just man, that's a lot.
It's too many, Mike. 6. But just to finish off Kellen Moore here, guy's done a good job this season. Great? No, clearly not. But good job. He's done a solid job, and he called a great game last week. Greg Cosell, our friend from NFL Films, raved about the job and getting out of Hurts' hands. And Kellen and Jalen, that was good to see. And I love what Jalen said after the game. I don't know because you were still in Thailand, but bottom line is I love what he said, that when he was asked about the game plan, and Jalen said, well, they took the shackles off. They let him straight to whatever he said, shackles, straight jacket. I love that line because I got it because they've been so restricted with him. But he processed great. That was great to see. They dialed it up. It was a really odd game, Mike. The first half, because you and I haven't talked before we get out of here, it was a relatively close game. Then the Eagles rolled 28-8 the second half. As Mosher says, it's yet another in the strange but true history of the Commanders/Redskins and Eagles games over the years.
Yep, and by the way, I set my alarm 2:55 a.m. I was up for both games at 3 o'clock.
2:55 a.m.
Yes, I was awake, man. I got up, watched the game. As soon as it was over, I went right back to sleep.
Well, Mike, I remember going to the 07 Pro Bowl, right? The only Pro Bowl I went to in Hawaii, and they're 5 hours behind. I couldn't sleep past like 3:30. I got up. I didn't even need an alarm. I just couldn't sleep. So that's the tough thing when there's a major time difference. You know, the Vegas and LA Super Bowls, I got up probably there, 3:30, 4 a.m. There's nothing you can do about it. And the problem is everything is closed, So unless you get the all-you-can-eat, 24-hour deals.
He's Adam Caplan, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, Football at 4 will be live on Radio Row in New Orleans next week. We'll have plenty of insights and roundtable stuff right here on the Sports Bash. We will see you in the Big Easy, Adam.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There he is, Adam Caplan, everybody, from the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com here on the Sports Bash.